And Gwen, you can take it away.
Thank you. I'm going to start by sharing my screen and saying thank you for having me today. Let's see, can everyone see my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let's get started here. Thank you, Kathleen, for inviting me today. Like she said, I work at a community college in Kansas City, and I'm the liaison for our Health Sciences Institute. So I primarily work with nursing students, occupational therapy students, physical therapy, and on through allied health. And oftentimes they're looking for a lot of research information and tips on how to use evidence-based practices in their future practice. So I talk a lot about how to integrate health research into their practice. But we always start at the basics. So that's really what I wanted to start with today, was talking a little bit about health literacy and a couple of tips to help you understand reliable health information and maybe identify it yourself. And then where to find some health information that is reliable. And then also we're going to take a look at a few websites and apps that maybe you're already familiar with. And if you are, great. And if you're not, then hopefully you'll take some new information home today that you'll be able to use and enjoy. So it's really important that we be good consumers of information. And now more than ever, there's so much information available and there's so much misinformation. There's a lot of people who create web content and publish it, and it's not reviewed, it's not peer edited, and some of it's just really made up. Some of it's misleading on purpose and some of it isn't. And so it's important for us to be able to identify ways to suss out the real deal and know how to identify information in a way that is useful to us and that we can help our friends and family. So where do we start? The first thing is really with critical thinking and asking good questions. So if you're looking for health information online, let's say you run across a website and you think, oh, this looks interesting. You might start asking yourself questions like, who created this website? And why did they create the website? What are they trying to do with this information? Who's their target audience? Who are they trying to reach? Well, the most basic question we can ask is, what is the purpose of this content? Was it made to inform, to help, to illuminate a topic and provide resources, information that you can use? Or was it designed to influence, maybe to suggest something that you should be doing, or to try and get you to take a certain action? That could be a red flag for you, because you want to be able to find reliable health information that doesn't try to convince you. It just provides what you need so you can make your own choices. So Stanford University has created a curriculum called Civic Online Reasoning. And it's a way of teaching individuals how to find information online and identify it as good information or not. And it's based on really two simple steps. And all of it comes down to thinking like a fact checker. And you may or may not be familiar with fact checkers. I think probably in this day and age, most people are. But you might not realize that you can actually be a fact checker. You can check your own facts and you can take the steps that they use to quickly identify good resources. And those two simple steps are lateral reading and click restraint. And we're going to take a look at that here in a minute. Lateral reading is really just jumping off the website and going to do a little research about it, seeing what other people are saying. What is it that, what information is available to tell you who owns it and maybe what their perspective is. And then click restraint is being choosy about what you click on when you're doing your research. It really is just restraining your clicks. You've heard of clickbait. Clickbait is anything that makes you want to click on it. Restraint is when you're being choosy about what you click on. So let's take a look. Many of you have probably heard of The Onion. And if you haven't, and you happen to land on this website, you might think, oh, this is probably just a news site. Looks pretty interesting. Maybe I want to learn a little bit more information about it. So I'll go over to, let's look at the About page. What does it say? Oh, it says it's a world-leading news publication. It's been around a long time. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go back and look at the main page. Start looking at some of the articles. Prison acknowledges security lapse that led to Maxwell spending the night in the newsroom. That's unusual. Hospital adds $20,000 scan that informs patients whether they have feet. What? What is this? I better do some research. Okay, so this might be you when you're coming across a new website and you're trying to get to know it. We went to the About page. That's usually what you're supposed to do. But if we remember that whoever created this website also created the About page, that means they can tell us anything they want. So we're going to jump off that page. We're going to do a search. I've already preloaded the search. I just searched for The Onion, and I did use Google. You might use something else. The first one that comes up is The Onion itself, the website that we were just on. And it looks like there are some news articles that pop up. They have a Twitter feed. Oh, but I'm going to look at, there's Wikipedia. They have their own YouTube and Facebook. And then there might be some other things here as well. So I'm going to clue you in on the next tip about identifying healthy information or reliable information. That is to not discount Wikipedia. So I mentioned Stanford University and this curriculum that they use called Civic Online Reasoning. And we're basing our steps on that curriculum. And they have incorporated this idea that Wikipedia is not all bad. I know when I say this in classrooms with students and teachers, there are shocked gasps in the room. What? We can use Wikipedia? Yes, you can. Wikipedia is designed, their goal is to actually be an open source encyclopedia. And they have a really interesting approach to allow people to access and edit and create content that's freely available on Wikipedia. But what you don't always hear is that they're pretty good about regulating what goes on their site. And they have rules for this content, including the fact that everything that goes into a web page on Wikipedia has to be cited. You have to have references, and it can't be made up. So in instances like this, when we're trying to find basic information about something like The Onion or another website or a celebrity or a politician, we can count on this generalized summary of information to be reliable. So when I go to Wikipedia, I see The Onion is an American satirical media company. That makes more sense to me after what we just saw on their main website. And they have been around for a long time. They used to be in print, now they're online, yada, yada, yada. But you get the picture that we can do a quick search and find basic information about who owns this media company, what they're about. We can look at the contents and see the history, look at any other publications that they offer, and do a quick deep dive on this website. So let's go back here and look at our slides. What do we do when we're trying to find good information? We ask important questions. We think like a fact checker. We use lateral reading to do a little research. We restrain our clicks. And when in doubt, we go to the experts and ask for help. So if you get into this and you feel like, I just can't figure out if this website is really good for me to use, if it's reliable, that's what the library is for. That's what your doctor's office is for. That's what all of those experts are available for. And luckily, LPL has a book a librarian service where you can go and book about 30 minutes of time with a librarian. And you can ask all those questions and they can walk through it with you and get to the root of the problem and hopefully help you find some answers. So that's my spiel on easily identifying reliable information. Hopefully that feels like a light lift, something easy that you can do, and you can do it anytime on your computer, on your phone, your iPad. And it just takes a little bit of critical thinking and asking questions before you realize, okay, this is reliable or not. And the best part is that you get to choose. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about health information. That's why we're here. You know, there are studies that have been done that tell us that roughly 70 to 80% of Americans search for health information online all the time. And I'm curious if you all can raise your hand and let me know if you look for health information online. Yeah, yeah. Okay, how many of you find what it is that you're looking for? I'm seeing a few hands. Okay, great. How many of you get frustrated? Anybody frustrated when you're trying to find online health information? Yes, I'm seeing some hands go up and down. Everyone gets frustrated. And there's research on that too. They've studied exactly how frustrating it can be to find good health information. So knowing that there's this universe of health information available, knowing that we have a lot of misinformation, disinformation, having a few skills under our belt, great, that helps us identify a few things, but where should we begin? And my best tip for you there is to go to the experts. And a lot of reliable health information creators are actually out there curating lists to help you find good resources. You could go to a local university, you could go to Mayo Clinic, you can go to a lot of different locations and find healthy, easy lists that will have information that you can use. And Lawrence Public Library actually offers an excellent one. I know this because I helped create it. So we're going to look at the list at LPL. So this is a very comprehensive guide to everything about health information and health research, services that are related to health at the library, the collections that they offer that are available to you, and then online health resources. These are organized by subject, anything from actual health research, if you want to look at the data and you want to explore those journal articles that are peer-reviewed, we have access to that here. If you want more general health information, which we're going to take a look at a couple of these items here in a moment, those websites are located here, as well as medication. If you're into alternative medicine, cancer, and it goes on and on. We jump to the bottom. We also have local health information available. If you're needing health insurance, access to local agencies and resources, all of that is available to you through the Lawrence Public Library website. But this is a really good example of someone whose job, their livelihood, is to put this information together to make it easy for you to find. And so I always recommend lean on those experts and lean on the work that they've done to make it easy for you to find the information that you need. Okay, so I put together a list of a few websites we're going to take a look at today and walk through together. Some of them might be familiar to you. One of them is local, and I just wanted to put together a variety of health-related topics that we could look at. The first one is Medline Plus. This is the perennial go-to for any health information specialist for reliable health information and comprehensive health information, anything that you're looking for related to procedures, chronic illness, nutrition, fitness, medication, herbal supplements. This is really kind of the go-to for that. It's maintained and created by the National Library of Medicine, and therefore we know it's a very reliable resource. It also comes in Spanish if anybody is bilingual or looking for alternative resources in another language. And that's really exciting for us when we're trying to promote, especially in a diverse campus environment where I work. I'm always looking for things in other languages. It's divided up by specific topics. And so we're going to take a look at the first one. It's health topics. It's very straightforward. Another benefit with Medline Plus is that it's designed for lay people, for consumers of information and patients. So everything is written in plain language, which makes it easy to understand. So if I have a specific topic, I'm going to say maybe back pain. I could look at an A to Z list. Let's see if I choose B for back pain. And I can look through the list and choose back pain. There it is. Okay. On this page, it's going to give me an overview, a summary of what the problem might be, what back pain is, how common it is. 8 out of 10 people have back pain. And then they've organized it with kind of a starting point, some fact sheets, diagnosis and tests that are done for people who have back pain, how to prevent back pain. I was looking at one earlier through here. It was for office exercises that I can do to prevent back pain. That was pretty cool. I actually did them in the office. I was testing them out at the reference desk. That was really good time. Treatments and therapies, and so on and so forth. So oftentimes I'll have videos that you can watch. They'll link to journal articles if you want to read research, talking about specific populations that might be affected by back pain, for example, women. And then also any handouts, like if you were a provider, you could actually go here and find the handouts, or you might find the ones that your physician had recommended for you. So let's take a look at one of these fact sheets, low back pain fact sheet. Okay, there's a PDF version. Okay, so then it's going to link me to some verified low back pain reviews and information to help me understand what it is that I'm experiencing and what's important about that, and maybe how I can prevent it or treat it. So the other thing I wanted to highlight about Medline Plus, and you can go in, it's free, open, available for anyone to use. You can go in and play around and click on all the different links, and find the information that you're interested in. But today I also wanted to feature the drug and supplement section. Oftentimes we're looking for specific medications, or maybe we're interested in taking a new supplement that we've read about and we've heard people are using. So we can come here, you can look for a specific drug by name, or I'm going to go to the herbal supplements. And they have an A to Z list here, pretty straightforward. Today I'm going to choose tea because I'm interested in taking turmeric. I've heard really good things about turmeric, and not just in curry. So if I click on turmeric, it takes me to an informational page, and I can read about it. I can learn that it's a plant, and it comes from the root of the plant, and learn a little bit more about the research that's being done and its safety for me, maybe any contraindications, any other ways that I can take it, things I need to keep in mind if I'm deciding to take turmeric. So you can see this is a fairly straightforward resource, very easy to use. It does require some bravery to poke around and, choose some of these links and dive into them. But once you do, it's pretty intuitive, pretty easy to use. Are there any questions so far? Okay. Let's see.
Not yet.
Okay, no worries. The next one we're going to look at is a little more local. And every time I go to click it here, my screen drops down. Okay, we're going to go to LMH. This is another example of an expert doing all the heavy lifting and work for you. to put together a lot of information about health. And I was really impressed as I was exploring their health library. This is something that they've had on their website for a few years. They used to have a physical library, they don't anymore. But now this health library makes available a lot of really interesting information. So let's explore that back pain again. I'm gonna click on that link. And it's gonna take me to a page where I can learn about specific aspects of back pain, low back pain, neck pain, some questions that I might have. Do I want an MRI or surgery? But if I use these drop downs here, I can look at specific health topics related to back pain. So have I been taking acetaminophen to relieve pain? What do I know about body mechanics and how that might prevent pain? A lot of different topics that maybe you know about and you just want to learn a little bit more, but also maybe some things that you didn't think about as being related to back pain that might be worth exploring. What is degenerative disc disease? Good question. If we go to the next drop down, this one lists the general medical tests that are usually involved in diagnosing back pain. If we click on one of these, it'll take you to more information about that specific test. Okay. If we go back, make a wise decision. I think this is one that was really interesting to me. Let's see if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. So we created these questions and kind of a rubric for thinking through if this procedure or this test is really right for you. And so the question is, should I have an MRI for my back pain? Well, they start with helping you understand the facts. You have an MRI, you don't have an MRI. Those are the two options. There are some things to think about, some frequently asked questions. And then the next option, compare options, number 2. So it gives you the list of your 2 options, have an MRI, don't have an MRI, and then it walks you through that decision-making process. Talks a little bit about your feelings and allows you to evaluate how you feel about having an MRI. And think about your decision. I'm just clicking through to the next one. And then you can quiz yourself. If you're really needing some support in making a decision for a big medical procedure, this is a tool that can help you think through some things that maybe you wouldn't have normally thought about with related, being related to an MRI for your back pain. I thought it was pretty impressive because in a doctor's office, when your physician is saying, okay, you've got a herniated disc and we're going to do an MRI and blah, 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 and you're going, okay, that's going to relieve my pain. You might not be thinking about all of these questions and considerations. So I think this tool is really interesting. And I hope you agree. Okay, and then just to cover this last tab, taking action, a few more links that will hopefully direct you so that if you want to take the next step, if you want to learn about proper lifting, that was the one I chose. Just helps you with that action plan so that you know the next step that you can take. Okay. So like I said, this is a locally grown resource, the Health Library at LMH. And the additional nice thing about this is that your physician, if you do go to LMH or any of their physicians' offices here in town, they might refer you to this and they might be able to dovetail your care with that particular resource. And so that's just the added benefit of having technology in our medical system and how they use it. And so I hope you're able to go in and explore that. I think I stopped the share. Are you able to see my screen?
Oh. Yeah, now it's back.
Okay. I clicked on the wrong thing.
Oh.
All right, the next one I wanted to share with you, because we've just come out of COVID, And everybody has been watching the variants, and everybody's been watching the numbers and looking for really good resources that are tracking all of that information related to COVID. There are a lot of resources, and some of them are easier to understand and use than others. And some of them have been more consistent than others. I don't know how many of you might have looked at the Johns Hopkins dashboard for a lot of the numbers. I personally found that useful once I wrapped my mind around how to read everything. Sometimes when I go to the CDC or the World Health Organization's website, they're informative, but I don't always get all the information I want. So I wanted to share the New York Times COVID tracker with you. Could anybody raise their hand and let me know if you've actually used this during the time of COVID in the last 2 years? I'm seeing a few hands raised. Okay, and if you're not a big New York Times user, that's okay. This is still a really good resource and freely available. I believe we're still able to get New York Times article issues through the library. That's a subscription offer that you have as a benefit for being a library card holder.
Yes.
But this page is also freely available for anyone who wants to use it. Basically, consistently, the New York Times has been tracking COVID data information from the beginning. One of the things I really like is that they have very clear charts. So this is the chart of new cases reported since the very beginning of the pandemic that we can see in real time every single day. And they do a good job of reporting anomalies in the data. So if they missed a day for some reason, like a holiday, you might see a little flag that says, oh, nobody was reporting on Thanksgiving Day. Okay, that makes sense why it went down right around Thanksgiving. They also are tracking all the information around the Omicron variant. So there's a link at the top, information about vaccinations, who's vaccinated, at least one dose, information about the state of the virus. They track new cases, daily cases, the number of tests that are being issued, hospitalizations, and deaths. Okay, and this is across the US. However, if I scroll back to the top, it defaults to the US, but we can also look at a map of the world and additional COVID health information. So they have a few other charts that are interesting if this is really your jam. But one of the things that I think is really great about the New York Times is that they provide, these wonderful maps, but then they drill down to the county information. So if I want to look at state trends, let's see, I'm gonna type in Kansas. Let's click on Kansas. And it gave me the overview of Kansas cases. And so it'll show all those same numbers, the cases, the tests, hospitalizations, and deaths for Kansas. I scroll down a little bit further. It shows me a really nice visual of where the hot spots are for COVID. And then it breaks it down by county. So we can look at the average daily cases, the percentage of change over a 14-day period, and pretty much anything you'd really want to know about how those numbers have changed, you can look at that for each county. So let's see if we can search for our county. Nope. Okay, so here's Douglas County. Average daily cases right now are 20. That's roughly 16 per 100,000 people, and that's declined about 13% over the last 14 days. So I just think that granular information is really interesting, but also helpful, especially if you're going to travel and you are going to a particular state or county and you're interested about what the cases are looking like there. It helps keep you informed.
Gwen?
Yes.
Isn't the reporting typically about a week or so delayed? I mean, the numbers that we're looking at on December 2nd reflect maybe the numbers as of 10 days ago or 7 days ago?
On average, most health reporting is delayed. And yes, I think that's about right, that time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then, like I mentioned, they report anomalies. So if there's, let's say there's a state that had been collecting data for a certain number of weeks and then they dumped all that data on one day, they'll make a note of that. So if you see a spike on that day, they'll say, hey, you know, so such and such county reported 12 weeks of data on this date, and you'll be able to identify that.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. The last website I wanted to share just briefly, because we are in an era of climate change, and people are wanting to learn more about environmental topics and about ways that they can contribute to the effort of environmental change. Is if we go to the EPA, and they have developed a page called Environmental Topics, and put this together for their users, for lay people to learn more about different aspects of climate change. And they've divided it up by specific topics. There's a health, air, climate change, science, water. I'm going to select greener living. That might be a topic that you'd be interested in. And they put together a list of links that could help you learn more about how to live green. So how to live sustainably, how to do a better job of being green on the road. You could learn more about reducing, reusing, recycling. A lot of people think they know about recycling, but maybe you want to learn more. How to choose products that are a little closer to the earth. How to make good choices with your energy. So all of this information is linked out to other pages of information. And so again, they've curated all of this into one spot for you to easily find and learn the information that you're looking for. So any questions about that? I'm going to move on because I think we're getting a little close on our time.
No questions so far.
Okay, I just had one more page I wanted to share with you. Okay, so when Kathleen was asking about health information for you, I often deal in websites and databases, a little less on health apps. I thought that would be really fun to look into some of the popular health apps that are out there. And, just like all of the health information, there are so many. How do you choose? Well, it really comes down to the fact that the best health app is really the one you're going to use. You can have 50 apps on your phone, but if you don't use them, they're nothing to you. That doesn't make them good or bad or otherwise, it just, you're not using them. And so what you want to do is be able to identify apps that are helpful to you that you'll actually integrate into your everyday life. But a few that I found that were pretty interesting to me, that I was hoping you might be interested in and have been well reviewed, and you should be able to find for both Android and iPhones, include Shopwell, which is an app that's designed to allow you to match your shopping choices to your nutritional goals. And so you'll go into the app and set up a profile and answer some questions about what your personal nutritional goals are, whether they're, you want to lose weight or you're trying to work with a certain condition or medication. And then when you go to the grocery store, you'll be able to scan items and it will tell you whether or not that fits into your plan, which is pretty neat. The next one is called COVID Coach. And this was developed by the US Department of Veterans Affairs. And it's for everyone. It's not just for veterans, but it is a self-care and mental health app. And they designed it because of the fallout of COVID, because so many people have been affected with mental health challenges and with the need to learn how to increase their self-care. And so this has been a very well-reviewed app. And of course, because it's one of our government institutions, it has a lot of reliable information. The next one, I actually had someone recommend to me last week. And I've seen a lot of reviews. You've probably seen even commercials when you're watching your shows at night about Good RX. And it actually does save you quite a bit of money. And the one thing I didn't realize until I started investigating it is that it does the shopping around for you. And so it can locate which pharmacies offer the best price for the medications that you take. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, and that is really a good one to use while most of us are shopping around for next year's Medicare plans in the Part D. I mean, that's just a really good resource to use. So if you're taking a blood pressure medicine, you can use that to compare Dillon's to CVS or whatnot.
Yes, yes, excellent. Okay, the next one is called Abridge, and this is pretty new on the market. And I was actually drawn in by their beautiful design and colors on their main webpage. But the nature of this app is really interesting as well. So it's designed to record your conversation with your physician and transcribe it, and then identify keywords and highlight them. And when you go in to touch the highlighted words, it can give you more information about that word. So let's say you're having a conversation with your physician, go back to our back pain topic, and they say you have a herniated disc. This app will not only transcribe that, but herniated disc might be highlighted, and when you touch it, it'll give you information about what that is. This also allows you to share that information with caregivers. And so you can export the transcripts to family, friends, caregivers, whoever is helping you on your health journey. And you can refer back to it anytime if you have questions about what your physician covered. I don't know about you, I'm guessing you're like me, but when your doctor is going through all these things that you're supposed to do and think about and know, some of it gets lost in translation. And so having something like that to record and then highlight and help you learn and understand is pretty stellar. Okay, the last one I wanted to mention is called Heart Rate Monitor. And this is pretty cool because it uses your phone. And so I've seen the heart rate monitors where it's an attachment to your phone, but this actually utilizes the camera on your phone to track your heart rate. And I even read somewhere that it's tracking potentially your blood oxygen and glucose as well. I don't know that that's fully true because I was quickly evaluating this, but it has a lot of good recommendations. It was coming up on a lot of lists that I found as some of the best health apps. So you might want to check it out. At the very least, when you're out for your next walk or run, you could pull out your camera and check your heart rate, see if you're in the target zone. That'd be pretty cool. Has anyone heard or used any of these besides GoodRx? We heard a little bit about that. No? Okay.
No, but we have a question about Abridge, and we have some other questions too that I'll ask you.
Sure.
But Ellen wants to know how doctors feel about Abridge, and do you have to ask their permission to use it when you're in there in the exam room with them?
Well, that's a really good question. And, you know, I think that that is a privacy issue that is not fully regulated. And I think that a lot of people record conversations and other people don't know it. But I think that just patient, doctor confidentiality and respect, you would want to ask your physician if you can record and work that out with them.
Yeah, I used, it's just called voice record. Just for the last couple of years, when I'm going in for the big physical, I'll record that and ask my doctor if I could just record what she says, because I'm not going to, take 100% of that home, unfortunately. So Carol wants to know if you know of a site that is free to see physicians' ratings or compare physicians within a specialty. Do you happen to know any of those?
Not off the top of my head. There are hospital rating sites, but I don't have one right off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but I could actually look that up and send it to Kathleen and she could get it to you. That's not a problem.
Okay. And what do you think of WebMD?
Okay, so that's a good question. A lot of people feel that WebMD is a little controversial. In the past, it has had a little bit of a bad rap, but you already know how I feel about some of those sites because we talked about Wikipedia. And I actually don't have a big problem with WebMD for the same reason that I like Wikipedia. And that is that it's a jumping off point. It's a place where you can go and you can start to learn some of the basics about a condition. You can learn some of the terminology and it can point you in the right direction for more information. I think that in the past, it hasn't always been highly reliable because sometimes you can get conflicting information. But I think that, you know, if you use it in the same way that you use Wikipedia or other searches of that nature as a starting point, I think it's really useful.
And are there any websites or apps that you would not recommend, that you would say, do not click, don't go there? Anything we should be really wary of?
Oh my. I think that might be a conversation for another day.
Okay.
Well, I'm also a really big fan of telling people you get to choose. Okay. That's one of the reasons why we teach critical thinking skills, is because you might be faced with information and you have to decide, is it credible and is it right for me? And that's not always the same for everyone. Now, you want factual information, especially when it comes to your health, you want factual information. But sometimes maybe you're okay with a different line on complementary, alternative, and integrative medicine than someone else is. And so there are these times when the lines are a little bit blurred that you get to choose, okay? Not everything is black and white. And you just really have to start developing those skills so that you can make good decisions for yourself.
And Maggie and Dave had this question, and I have never heard this from a doctor, but I've heard variations of this. And that is when they tell you not to go to the internet for health decisions. And I don't know if decisions is the key word in that question, but you know, what do you think of the doctor who will say, don't go to the internet, just take my word for it?
Okay, that's a really good question for a couple of reasons. One is that a lot of what you're going to see on the internet that doesn't come from a reliable source is more than likely going to be worst case scenario. So for example, let's say you have a grandchild who might be allergic to bees and they get a bee sting, and you go online to look and find pictures of what a really bad reaction would look like. You're going to see the worst of the worst, and then it freaks people out. And then doctors end up having to untangle that mess and get them back to reality. So for doctors on that level, of course, they recognize that the internet can sometimes just blow things out of proportion. And additionally, similarly to that, a lot of times people might try and diagnose their own condition, or might research something and say, oh, it looks like I have this, you know, all these different symptoms that qualify, I must have this condition. And then they go see their physician and say, I think I have, you know, whatever it is. And our bodies and medicine are so complex that doing a quick internet search is really not going to give you the full picture of what's going on with your body. And so with our physicians' time, their availability, and the counseling that they have to do within the available time they have with you, they'd rather spend it on getting to the root of the problem rather than having to remediate why it's not this, but it's this other. Does that make sense?
It does to me. So I just to verify that these apps, the 5 apps, and they sound really interesting. Are all 5 of them free to use?
I think that most of them were free, and then there was at least one that I think was 99 cents. They were fair, like if it was fee associated, it was a very low cost.
Okay.
I didn't choose anything that was $50 a year or something like that.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any other questions for Gwen? I think I've gotten to them all.
Yeah.
And if you prefer just to open up your mic, unmute yourself to ask, that's fine too at this point.
Well, I've included a thank you page with my contact information. I'm always happy to field questions. Just because I work at a college doesn't mean that we don't work with our community members as well. And so if you ever have a question and would like to get in touch, please feel free to reach out. I would love that.
Great. Okay. Last call for questions, people. Anybody else? Anybody else?
No, this has been really informative. Can I unshare your screen?
Oh, sure.
There we go. Now we can all see each other. But yeah, no, I learned a lot. That was good. Like Wikipedia is actually legit. What a concept.
Well, and I'm really happy to hear about Medline Plus too, because I tend to
Mhm.
land on WebMD, and not saying that's not, but that's seems to be the one that floats to the top.
Right.
It just seems to be, but I'll search that one out now because that's impressive.
Are there any other good government type health websites out there that are particularly helpful or good other than Medline Plus? I mean, that's so comprehensive, but
Yeah, well, this one's really the best in my opinion. There is health.gov is another one that's highly cited. I don't like it as much because I don't feel like it's as user friendly. I don't care for their interface. I think it's harder to find the information you want to find. But Medline Plus has a counterpart for research if you want to look for articles, and that's PubMed. It's also sponsored by the National Libraries of Medicine and maintained by them as well. So if you want to get deeper into the science or look for more recent articles, that's a really great place to go.
You put Gwen's contact information in the chat since it didn't get a chance to copy that down.
Oh, sure. Gwen, go ahead, and if you would just go ahead and share screen, and then I'll make a note.
Sure.
If you could go back to your last page,
Slide.
your last slide, and then I'll copy down the, okay.
I will also say that there are a lot of different government websites that offer health information. I believe the Institute on Aging has some really great information as well. So you can kind of look up government information fairly easily, and then look for consumer health or information for patients, and look for those, handy curated lists that we talked about with those resources available there.
Okay, I think I've got it.
all right. Perfect. Yep, it's in there.
Is it okay to stop sharing my screen? Or
Yes, I put it in the chat.
Yep, so we're good.
Okay. All right, well, let's give everybody our mimed
Attention.
round of, give Gwen a round of applause.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, that's really
thanks,
interesting.
Gwen. It's really good.
Thank you for having me.
You're
Everybody
welcome.
take care and be well.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, have a good night, everybody. We'll see you at the next one.
All righty.
Stay
Thank
healthy.
you.
Please stay healthy. Bye-bye.